I'm going to be honest with everybody. I've had very little sleep in the last 24 to 36 hours. Very exciting game last night. Everybody here watching knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'll screw with the formalities. I got a bunch of video clips, things that excited me during the game. We'll get to CJ Stroud and his performance at some point, maybe in this video or later on in the future. But my God, my defensive line nirvana last night was Sheldon Rankins' strip sack for a touchdown. This is what really blew the game up, and it was a combo deal of Will Anderson and then Sheldon Rankins picking up the ball and running for the touchdown. But this right here, look, just watch that. If he had done nothing more on this play than this right here versus this guard, okay, watch. Sheldon, number 90, comes across formation. That's going to attract the guard. That isolates Will on the offensive tackle there to the right. But watch the little shake to the outside. When he looks outside there, it just freezes the guard enough, and then just watch this in real time. I'm just going to, this is the best feeling. This is the sweet spot. Bah! That's just complete and total ownership. There's nothing better than that. Will on the outside doesn't get a chip. And you don't chip Will Anderson. Look, did they learn nothing from Josh Allen and the plight he went through and getting sacked 8 times versus the Bills? This was just beautiful. Will talked about it afterwards. This is Will talking about his premonition that foretold this very play.
I told him, I said, I had a dream, bro. I said, look, I'm not Martin Luther King, but I had a dream. You had a scoop. But I don't know what's going to happen if the dream went blank after that. And I told him that before we left to come here. And it came to life, man. So, but having him back here has been so special for this team. But just for me, honestly, bro, because he was a vet for me my rookie year. And, he told me he played running back. I'm like, man, you ain't playing no running back. But he got 2 touchdowns. So it might be true. So
It's true. It's true. He was a running back his freshman season at Eastside High School somewhere in Georgia, and you saw the moves. This is a big thing about some of these guys that weigh 300 pounds or so. Not me, myself. I was never all that good an athlete. The reason they're able to move the way they can at 300 pounds is that if you took 60 pounds off of them, they'd be blazingly fast. And Sheldon Rankins is that guy. One thing that Will said there that I just absolutely love about the way D'Amico and Caserio have gone about building this roster, and most of you guys know this, they surround Will Anderson with mentors. They surround all their young players with mentors. They want to have at least a veteran in every position group that can kind of guide the youngsters along the way. The defensive backs, they took off on their own long time ago. They were precocious walkers, and they don't necessarily need old heads in the room because they conduct themselves as veterans. But the Sheldon Rankins, going back to Jerry Hughes, Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry, all of these guys that provide so much mentorship for a guy like Will who's just going to soak it in. Absolutely love it. I love the way they do it. I could choose 19 different guys to highlight here, so I just grabbed some of the ones that I happened to grab first. Jaylen Petri, if it felt like he was living behind the line of scrimmage, you're not mistaken on that. I didn't realize he had 5 tackles for either a stuff or for a loss in this game. And you watch him at his body weight playing that nickel linebacker like a ferocious linebacker of the Steelers in the days of yore. I mean, look at him pull the trigger and how fast he gets back there. Not to mention just how quickly he reads this screen. Somebody going to block you? No. What are you going to do? Just absorb a block? He makes the tackles. This one, pull the trigger, boom. He's like a tiny Urlacher back there. This one's beautiful. Watch him stack and shed. That's old school linebacking. Most modern linebackers don't stack and shed like tiny Jaylen Petri does here. Just watch this. Watch his hands. This is perfect. I mean, he jacks him up. That feels as good as the Sheldon Rankins sweet spot that I showed you earlier. There's nothing better than that feeling of just when you get your hands into somebody and you jack them up like that and you Pez dispenser them, you are in complete and total control of the situation. You are the captain now. And that's what Jaylen Petri was. Before I get to a couple of the offensive plays, wanted to address something because somebody brought up a good question. I was gushing, as I tend to do, about the Texans' defense on X, and somebody asked a question about the sustainability of this defense? And it's a good question. It's a good question. Not that one. I'll get to that later. Get out of there. The question at the bottom there was, is there some talk about how a defense this simple is too talent reliant to be good year after year? How do you feel about that statement? There's some truth to that. I mean, you look at the Legion of Boom, they were a pretty simple defense schematically. They had awesome players. But if you look at the way the Texans constructed this defense, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, 1 third-rounder, 1 fifth-rounder, 1 sixth-round. You've got Danielle Hunter signed for $24 million per year initially. They extended him 1 more year after that, so that goes up a little bit. They got Azeez Al-Shire for $11 million per year. They signed Sheldon Rankins this year to a 1-year contract for $2 million. And they signed, that's Tommy Togiai for $1 million a year. They extended him. He's making like $2.5 million once his new contract kicks in. And you'd love to keep all of these guys around forever, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at the defensive tackles alone, what have they done at that position? Tommy Togiai wasn't even active on game day at the beginning of this year. Sheldon Rankins wasn't in the building until last spring. Tim Settle went down, but he was a bargain signing. Foley Fatukasi went down. He was a bargain signing. Kurt Heinisch was still on his rookie contract. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but they've been able to kind of stock the feeders and keep guys rolling along and developing them. And the other part of that is just simply this. I tweeted this out this morning with all the talk about how simple the Texans' defensive scheme is. I hope people understand that you can only pull that off with incredible position coaching. There are a lot of fraudulent position coaches in the NFL. None of them are on that defense. And one other, J.J. Watt, hit me with the 3 bullseyes at the bottom of that. So I feel like I've got the endorsement of J.J. Watt. J.J. and I have actually texted about this a little bit. The coaching that goes on the defense especially, but I think it's really starting to show up on the offensive line. This is the way a simple scheme works. Yes, you have to have super talented players, which you can get in the second and third and fourth and fifth round as well as the first round. You got to sign a free agent like Danielle Hunter somewhere along the way. But added to that, and not one is not more important than the other, there's the talent, but then there's also the instruction and guys playing disciplined. You know, we watch those Jaylen Petri clips and look at his tackling, you know, and it's not classic form tackling, but he's wrapping up. He's trying to keep his head out of things more these days, I think, which I approve. He was not a sound and secure tackler early in his career. Early this season, I was worried about swarm gone awry. I 100% am all for the swarm mentality, but not at the expense of sound tackling. They worked at that this year. D'Amico identified it as something they had to improve on. Matt Burke has talked about just how much more they emphasize the actual thuds and collisions, even when they're not tackling, and as you never do in NFL practices, but even late in the season. They've coached the crap out of these guys offensively. And I just pulled a couple of offensive plays. We'll get to CJ in a minute. Let's see. Let's look at the Christian Kirk touchdown. For one, building off of something they did earlier this year, you get some misdirection, and you get a couple things I want to point out here. One, on the design of the play, watch Cade Stover, and I didn't notice that until I watched back this morning. He's an option on this play. He releases, and he's there. CJ, he's either a decoy or he's an option. I think he's an actual option because he doesn't try to block at all. He's got his eyes on CJ. Then he starts to box out a little bit. But then if you look at Sawyer there, number 33 on the left of your screen, he is putting pressure on CJ. And I know it wasn't a perfect pass, but if you watch where CJ's getting that ball off with somebody coming up in his face, they got the job done. The other part of this is you can see the decoy effect on Hutchinson going across the screen. You see down at the bottom, the cornerback following him. Stover releasing, gets number 29 there to latch on to him. And then you don't have anybody else coming in relief other than the guy that's tracking Kirk across the formation, and they start that. Kirk's over there to the right of your screen, number 13, all the way to the right. I mean, that's at the snap, so it's just hard to do. And they had the misdirection going from the backfield action. I thought Nick Caley had one of his best called and game planned games this year. So many things came together, including the offensive line and their pass protection and the run blocking. And Woody Marks. Woody Marks was a revelation. Woody Marks had the most yards per carry he's had all season. He had the highest output he's had all season. I think the offensive line blocked for 4 quarters better than they have all season. And this is something that I was skeptical of. I didn't know how much more improving the Texans could do on into the playoffs. They turned a corner in that game. And I don't care what it means in the long run or anything. This is a version of the offensive line that I was hoping to see next season after they'd had a full year with Cole Popovich. But things took hold. Here's Woody Marks' touchdown. And just a couple things here. One, obviously, Woody Marks breaking tackles, as he tends to do, far above and beyond his weight class. But if you watch the offensive line, start from the center out, Jake Andrews has to reach that 3 technique. He gets a little help because the guy's slanting inside. In days of yore, that's right, I used yore for the second time this stream. That defensive tackle would have been in the backfield because these guys could not adjust to slanting defensive linemen. And then if you go out to Ed Ingram, number 69, and Trent Brown at right tackle. Trent Brown, number 77, gets his hand, helps Ingram overtake. Then he works up to a safety, and just the light of the sun, the moon, the earth, and the stars, it just blocks him out. And then Woody Marks does a great job of hitting the touchdown. This was, in so many ways, a really, really good performance by, at any given time, 21 guys on the football field. C.J. Stroud did some good things in this game. C.J. Stroud also did some very bad things in this game. C.J. Stroud fumbled 5 times. 5 times. Is that a lot, Seth? Yes. It's the most times. It's only the second time since 1991 that a quarterback has fumbled 5 times in a game and his team won the game. The last time somebody did it, Eli Manning in 2007. Won a Super Bowl that year. It's not what you want. It's not what you go for. But they were self-inflicted wounds. The interception was a bad interception. The CJ trying to work up and trying to complete passes when there's extreme clutter around him. This is something that he did such a good job this season, ironing out and knowing when to minimize risk, when to take the L on the play for the greater good. But he's doing some of this stuff in the first half where it just felt like he was pressing. And beyond that, I mean, if you look at and I'm not saying this is an excuse and saying it was actually a good performance, but 21 for 32 for 250 yards, 7.8 yards per pass attempt. And like that was good enough. That is good enough to win in this game. And truth be told, it would have been a 51-point blowout if CJ hadn't had all these self-inflicted wounds. There were only 9 offensive series in the game. There's 12 to 13 is the average number of series in a game. So you take 9 of those, you take away 3 that were done in by turnovers that were CJ inflicted. You only got 6 series in that game, and yet they still end up with this lopsided score. That's the thing that I don't think that CJ goes from never having more than 1 fumble in a game in his entire career to all of a sudden having 5 and thinking that he's a turnover-prone quarterback or something. I think that for whatever reason, he's a guy that he's played in big-time games before in college and in the NFL and had good performances in those games. I don't think that the lights were too bright or anything like that. It was just a weirdly bad performance, and this is a year where he was lucky to be on a team that it didn't matter because the defense is so freaking spectacular. Let's see. Back in OTAs, I remember Stroud was not throwing. Is it possible Stroud is dealing with something that has affected his accuracy this season? It's possible. It was something I was concerned about. The thing that I was concerned more about with that is that he didn't have time to really learn the offense, and they're asking him to do a whole lot of things. And I think early in the season, it was as much about just a lack of familiarity with the offense than it was anything else. If you just look at I know completion percentage does not tell the whole story by a long shot. 63% his rookie year, 63% his second year. This year, 64%. It went 63.9 to 63.2 to 64.5. And I would say that along the way, and in this season specifically, some of that completion percentage is skewed by the fact that he's throwing the ball away. He's dirting it when he should be dirting it. I'm a big fan of that. Those are the types of things that he's grown at, and then they just kind of evaporated last night, and I don't know why. Nico Collins and his likely, like at this point, I'm going to assume he's not going to be able to play on 1 day less rest this week and come out of the concussion protocol. Everybody's different. Some guys recover faster from some concussions than others do, but this is the most encouraging thing I think last night, if you're going to have to deal without Nico Collins, is that Christian Kirk finally really showed up, and he showed up in a big way. And I think at least part of that is, hey, that slot receiver position, and I haven't gone and seen exactly where Christian or Jaylen Noel were lined up at various times, but those guys that you call the slot receiver, they were options. They were targeted last night. You know, I wish Jaylen Noel could have come down with that one over the middle, but it's a big loss. Now, Christian, what's his face there, is Hernandez is also out with a concussion for the Patriots. We'll get into the Patriots later on this week. It's tough. I hate talking to Patriots fans about the Patriots because I get the situation they're in. They are incredibly defensive about the fact that their team played a relatively soft schedule. They've done some good things against the few good teams that they've played this year, but the fact of the matter is that offense, even though it's the number 2 scoring offense in the league, I believe, they haven't faced a top 10 defense until the Chargers game. Drake May did some really good things in that Chargers game, but they only scored 16 points. I have no idea how genuinely good the Patriots offense is. I know that they could potentially be really, really good. So I'm not taking one bit of this lightly. I don't care that they played a soft schedule. They stand in the way of the Texans making a conference championship game for the first time in their history. Something that I failed in my time as a Texans player. Do it for old Sethers.